crafty friends, it's Wens here from Crafty Kiwi Mama. I'm back with another crafty adventure to share with you today, Halloween themed one. I want to share very first, before I start on the actual make itself, these stunning new papers that have just been released from Whimsy Stamps. This is their new paper pack called Halloween Inks, and oh my goodness, they're amazing. I know it looks a bit overwhelming when you've got the front panel like that, but let me share with you page by page how stunning these actually are. This is the first panel, which has a moon and some pumpkins and some beautiful, what look like alcohol ink sections to it. Oh, I love that one. Stunning. There's lots of green. You had me at the green. Another pumpkin rich theme with lots of beautiful alcohol inky doobly-doos. And this one has, oh, that's so cute. I hadn't noticed it had a witch's hat on the castle. That's so cute. It's a castle with a witch's hat on it. I love it. Little ghosties and pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns. This is a cute one with jack-o'-lantern wearing a witch's hat. I'm loving, look at this, some spiderweb details in amongst the ink work. Some incredible things that we're able to get in beautiful background papers these days. A cute little ghosty and some candles and a jack-o'-lantern. And this one, more beautiful alcohol ink background. Another one that's got ghosties and jack-o'-lanterns and cute spider webs and some bats in this one too. Another one with very jack-o'-lantern rich and another little, oh, I like that little ghosty. He's super cute and beautiful. Doobly-doos of the alcohol ink background. Oh, this one includes now some potion bottles with our jack-o'-lanterns. Cute little witch's hat and a spray of bats going up into the sky. Oh, I just love. This has got like splashes of gold in it. You know how you do alcohol ink work and then add foil on top or splashes of sort of metallics? That's hinting at that, which is just gorgeous. Little spider's web up in the corner there. Beautiful, beautiful. Another jack-o'-lantern rich one with pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, a couple of little witches' hats. Little bat down in the corner there and a little one here. Just beautiful, beautiful backgrounds. Oh, a slooky ghost. He's in black and a little black, what looks like a haunted mansion in the background. Pumpkins, beautiful purples and blacks and oranges for that inky. Oh, yeah, I really like that one. I could stay with this for a little while. That is gorgeous. And then we move past the ones that have extra things in them, like the jack-o'-lanterns and the witches' hats and things, onto some that are just a representation of an alcohol ink adventure. Beautifully done. The colours in these are stunning. Green's my favourite colour. If you've been following me anytime, you'll know that. So I'm like in my bliss with these papers because there's so much green in it. It's just exquisite. Bluey greens in this one with what looks like more, when you add the golds into alcohol ink backgrounds, it can give that effect of goldy rims to things. Just really cool designs. So there's 4 that are really just alcohol ink looking panels, and then we're back to the beginning. So that's 15 designs. There are 2 pages of each of those, so I've just shown you one. And now I want to share with you a couple of alcohol ink backgrounds I've made just to show you how amazing these papers are. That's an alcohol ink background I did. That's the back of it. You can see my messy back of the alcohol. But that's real alcohol ink and the journey of adventure with that, which I made to be an alcohol ink background for Halloween. Look how amazing those papers are. Very, very true to how alcohol inks move and shift and flow. And I'm pretty besotted with my own alcohol ink background, so I was kind of jazzed to see that we had a whole paper pad that was very alcohol ink inspired. Here's another one I made where we were talking about the effect of the metallics being shot through. I've not done that in a gold or a silver metallic. I've actually used a lilac metallic, but you can see the effect of having that metallic through that, which these alcohol ink papers were mimicking with some of those back ones where they've got the sort of goldy rims. I just think that's so clever and they're so beautiful. I can tell I'm going to be in my zone, really enjoying working with these. So if you're intimidated by alcohol inks and how to work with them, start here. They're amazing, amazing panels. I'll put that aside just for a second. I'm going to hold on to the top 2 pages because I've done a little investigating. I should probably just show you some ideas of things. I want to work with these papers, and I thought I really love it as it is. I don't really want to cut down the size of the paper. I've coloured up this little guy here who comes from our Wicked Cute stamp set. Released a couple of Halloweens ago, and I've coloured him up with super cute little rosy cheeks and with his little trident pitchfork thing and his little trick-or-treat bucket. And I thought he'd be super cute on one of these alcohol ink backgrounds, and so I went through a few, tried him out to see where he would sit in there and if I could get away with those backgrounds. So what I'm doing now is basically figuring out or auditioning my piece, as a girlfriend of mine, Nancy May, used to say, or still says, auditioning the piece to figure out where within it I want to sit my character. And to be honest, there are many that this would work well with. They've got just such cool designs, and the way I've coloured this little guy up, you can see it's not a flat red, it's done with like reds and oranges and yellows to really bring kind of a bit of a fun variation into his colouring. He sits well in a lot of these scenes because of the colours I've chosen to colour him in. But my favourites, I'm not going to audition every single piece, but he could have been cute on that. But I sort of feel he gets a little bit lost in a couple of these. So, and I didn't want to put him just on an alcohol ink background, so I'll go fast forward past those. Back to the 2 that I pulled out and sort of stopped on at the beginning. I like him on either this one, which I think he looks amazing on because it's almost got like a little path just there that he could stand on. That's the one I wanted to use for him. My problem is I'm somebody who loves to stamp directly on the paper rather than add a sentiment that's been stamped onto a separate piece of paper and then adhering it on top. I love the look of the sentiment stamp directly on the background paper. Always have. It's kind of my thing to do. And so I either need a really tiny sentiment that can go across the moon, because that within this panel is where it's light enough to actually put a darker stamp, or we go for option number 2 and sit the wee fella down here somewhere. And I've got a massive moon in that corner that will take my stamping really well. So it's about figuring out where I'm going to stand him. Do I put him in front of the pumpkin here? And instead of having the jack-o'-lantern in the scene, we're going to cover him over and just have a pumpkin patch with our little cutie. And then my ideas for sentiments, I've got some stamp sets over here that I'm thinking I will try and use. I love the idea, because he's out in his little costume ready to trick or treat, of either doing a great big trick or treat across the moon there, just above his head, which I think will look quite cool from that stamp set. And that's from the stamp set called Trick or Treat House, which has the little house on the top half there. Such a cool set, love it. I also have got this option, which is from the Spirited Sentiments set. This is super cute because I love the little ghosties in it. But I could do that, Trick or Treat, which fits in the moon super nicely. Or the last one, which comes from a stamp set called ATC Halloween Scene. This is really cool. I really like this set. If you're into ATCs, that little webs frame or decoration there is the perfect size for an ATC card. This was made to be an ATC set. It's got these cute little spooky trees with the words haunted, eerie and spooky, and some little tiny bats, so sized and themed perfectly for an ATC size. But that Happy Halloween is also kind of perfect for fitting across that moon, and would really go well with this, with the little jack-o'-lantern for the O there. So I'm just figuring out at this stage exactly which one I want to use, and having kind of auditioned the 3 pieces, I'm actually thinking probably that one. Or it'd be good if this was alive and you could actually give me feedback about which one you like, but it's not, so I'm just going to have to make the decision myself. So if you're shouting at the screen now, you know, choose the second one or something like that. Sorry, I can't hear you. You're just going to have to let me figure out my own journey. However, you can give me your feedback in the comments below which one you would have chosen, and I totally will take that on board for next time perhaps. I really like that one too, Trick or Treat. But I love how stylistic that first one is. The font that's been used on that is just very, very cool. That one kind of fits nicer than any of the rest though, I've got to say. And then I wonder if this one is just a little bit too big. It's very cool, but it kind of does then take over the whole scene. So I'm not going to use that one as much as I adore that one. Look at that with its little cobweb, and this is a really cool set. And it's got some excellent sort of sub-sentiments like trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. That would have been a cute one to use for him. Spooky. Smell my feet, give me something good to eat, and tiny, tiny print, which is really cool, under the house. And then I think this is hilarious for the haunted house one. If one door opens and another closes, your house is probably haunted. That's so funny. So anyway, I'm going to pop that one away because that's not the one that we're going to use. I think I've settled on this one. Going to give it one more look. I think the other one, the big Trick or Treat, is just too big. I like the way that just kind of fits in the moon there. Yeah, that one sort of extends into the tree, and I don't know if I love that so much. So yeah, it's the one that for me had the least interesting font, but it works. It's quirky in its font style, which actually works with the character really well. So we're going to go for that one. And it's got a nice solid font, so it's going to stamp really well and end up being really a good choice, I think. So we're going to go for that. I'm going to put away my ATC Halloween scene. Sorry, just have to tidy up or else I start to lose things. So that one there is the stamp set called Spirited Sentiments, and we're going to go for that one. So I'm going to pull out my Trick or Treat. Let's just lay it on there to get a sense of that. Yeah, I think that's going to be brilliant. I'm going to pull out my one from underneath because we don't need to work with that extra panel now. We've decided which one we're going to use. And I do like my little dude over here. I don't feel it, the balance is right there, I think, because I've got the sentiment sort of going right of the middle. Having him left of the middle sort of really works in terms of balance. I could actually chop that to bring the balance much more into the design, but I love that paper. Why would you cut that down with all that gorgeous detail if you've got the ability to make a square card, which I do. I have a lot from my UK days of square card bases, so we're going to turn that into a big 6x6 sized card. I'll distress the edges. I've got my little Tim Holtz distressing tool. I'm sure many of you have them. Mine's very discoloured from years of use. But that's what I'll do, is I'll distress the edges on the card panel, stamp on the greeting, and then pop him up on foam to finish. And then that is going to be actually an incredibly quick and pretty simple card. I'm going to be back in a second. I need to grab some inks and my stamping tool, and we will make the stamping bit come together. Actually, I'm better prepared than I thought I was. I've got my stamping tool right here. And I'll do what I did in my previous video and show you just how I use my little acetate sheet, which helps me audition exactly where I'm going to lay down the sentiment, and also to check that I have it straight before I commit to stamping it down on the page. So I'll lift that because that needs to go second. I'm going to put our acetate over the top. Oh, I just need to prime that, so let me take a second just to take the top, because I haven't used that one before. Quite often I just like to run my hand over it. What I'm doing, for those of you that are beginner stampers, for those of you that are well versed in what I'm doing, then just, go into your happy place in your mind for a minute while I do this. You can see, I hope, that I've added like a strange little murky top on that. That's basically probably my skin cells, which is a bit gross. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the treatment off it that's come from the manufacturing process and removing any kind of manufacturing oils, etc., by just running my hand across the top of it. That means it will take the ink far better. So when somebody's talking about priming your stamps, that's the process. It's just about taking the oil from the manufacturing process off your stamp so that it actually picks up the ink really well. Okay, I think that's where I want it. I'm going to bring my little kiddo back in. Pop him down here. That's about where he's going to be. Yeah, so that's plenty out of the way for him. I'm going to stick a little magnetic thing there and there. Pick this up with my Misty door. And then what I want to check at this stage, I think I showed this to you last time, is I sort of have a look at the door and figure out whether it's straight for me or not. It's a really quirky sentiment, so straight is really not a thing here, as you can see, but that's straight enough in terms of the grid lines. And then we're going to do a test. We're going to do a test stamp. I'll just grab my VersaFine ink. So I'm using VersaFine Clear Onyx. No, it's not Onyx Black. This one is Nocturne. Onyx Black is the old previous version. Now, I do have a thing about not letting ink that's got on the door transfer to my cardstock. So I want to make sure I clean that off before I make a mistake. What a mistake did I make it? And then we're just going to lay down a little bit of pressure and see how that looks once it's on there. I'm liking it. I like it a lot. And with our little fella in the same, I think that's going to look fantastic. So we're going to go for that. I'm not going to heat emboss that one because I'm worried that it's going to warp the panel. And it's such a large panel, it's going to be difficult to get it to sit straight again afterwards. And because I'm using black, and there's lots of black in this already, it won't look out of place to have a black sentiment on there. It's actually quite appropriate to have a black sentiment on there. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move my little dude out of the way, lift off my little auditioning acetate, what I use basically to check that I've got things in the right orientation and in the right position. Make sure that my paper is back in the corner properly. All these things you do without actually voicing, I'm sure, but just talking through my process as I'm doing it. Ink up again my stamp, and then we're going to commit. And then lifting that up. Okay, and I've got a pretty good inking, but you can see there's just a couple of little bits that could be a little bit better. And this is the reason we use a stamp positioning tool like a Misty, is that it gives us the freedom to then stamp back down in exactly the same spot. And hopefully when it lifts this time, we will have a really solid black inky. Oh, yeah. Bellissima. Right, that looks really good. So I'm happy with that. We're going to call that done. I'm going to put away my stamp positioning tool. I will go back and wash off that ink in a little bit, but let's not bore you with those details. And here's my little fella. So next thing that I need to do that I talked about with you was doing the roughing up of the edges. So while that ink dries, really carefully so I don't stick my fingers in the middle of it, I'm just going to take my tool and rough up these edges, and you can just see that process. I've watched videos before where people say, why don't you show that process? So I'm showing the process. Not necessarily me creating, but other creators. Or people have said, I'd love to see what it is that you actually do with the roughing up of the edges. It's very, very easy, particularly with a tool like this one from Tim Holtz. Ordinarily, I just use my scissors. I've had this for a great many years, but I'm very prone to losing it because I put it down somewhere and then I forget where I've actually put it. So when that happens, I just use my scissors. But when I've located it and know where it is, I'm always happy to use it because it does a fantastic job of distressing the edges, and you can run back and forward across it with this much easier than you can a pair of scissors. But yeah, that just gives it a really nice kind of distressed edge, which is exactly what we want because I'm not doing anything extra to this panel. This is basically going to be it. I don't even think I'm going to add any embellishments. I think we'll leave it there. So this little guy is going to be adhered to a top folding white note card. And that's it. That's my piece. So I'm showing you what I did with one of the panels and how easy it is to work with these panels. There are so many possibilities. Feel free to chop up little bits, and you could use something like this, which is stunning, as a strip, on a more clean and simple card. Oh, look what I've done. Stuck my finger in the middle of something inky. I've got black on my finger. I better remedy that. Oh, I know what it's from. My acetate. So before I get black ink everywhere, I'm just going to clean that off my finger and clean the acetate sheet, which I should have cleaned in the first place instead of trying to go so fast. But that's it, friends. That is how it's going to look. I'm going to mount it onto the top folding 6x6 card base. And then that'll be my complete piece. I'll take a photo of it in a little bit and pop it on the end of the video here. But how quick and easy was that to use these beautiful panels of cardstock? As I said, there are 15 designs and 2 of each, so that's a really generous amount of card panels. Pretty sure that's right. I'm going to just double check that. Yeah, 2 each of 15 designs, so there's 30 sheets of paper in there. So gorgeous. So this is, one of many examples that you'll see with this particular paper set. Head on over to the Whimsy Stamps store and have a look for the paper set. It's called Halloween Inks, and there are design examples by the DT. If you just have a look at the thumbnails and scroll through those, you will see loads of ways to use this beautiful, beautiful paper. Super excited to have it included in our Halloween lineup this year. And I got to tell you a secret, guys, without any spoilers. You got to come back and see the September releases from Whimsy for Halloween. They are to die for. Seriously, seriously good. So I'm excited about September approaching. Not that I want to wish time away, but I can't wait. So we'll see you soon for another crafty adventure, and certainly in September for lots of crafty adventures. Until then, I wish you a creative day. See you soon, folks. Bye.